Hi, I'm Tilly, and today's tutorial will center around the unitard painting, organza details, and shoes for Mr. Mistoffelees from Cats, the musical. I'll also go ahead and compare and contrast this design and technique with the technique I used for the Cheshire Cat, so that this tutorial can be applied to any cat in the Cats universe. I'll also put a list of recommended materials down in the description below, none of which are sponsors. The Cats universe? That makes them sound so much cooler. Can the Cats have a universe? Is this the new MCU? It's the Cats universe? Oh, that would be great. Who else would we put in the Cats universe? Garfield? What other, quintessential cats are there? The Aristocats? Salem? That would be great. Oh my god, I bet Salem and Mr. Mistoffelees would be friends. For cats that have a lot of white, such as Victoria, I would recommend using a mesh unitard underneath your main unitard in order to hide any lines or colors from your undergarments. For the paint selection, you can use any fabric paint that you'd like if you have a favorite. I've tried two for the different cats. The first was for the Cheshire Cat as well as the shoes, and that's the Tulip Matte Soft Fabric Paint. The pros of this paint were that it was easy to work with, it didn't dry stiff, which was a big fear of mine because it is a little thicker, it didn't require heat setting, and it's easy to find in stores and online. The cons of this paint were that it's a little thicker, so doing the multiple layers of Mr. Mistoffelees, I was worried about that, so I switched to a different paint. For Mr. Mistoffelees, I used a Jacquard Textiles paint. The pros of this were that it was thinner, so it's great for layers. It was fantastic for multiple layers. It's soft, it's really flexible, it's easy to work with. It was really great out of the squeeze bottles. The con was the heat setting in my mind. I just don't think I did a really great job, or I don't think my iron was quite at the right setting to really heat set it, and I can already see some wear and bleeding from under the armpits and things that are pretty hard to get with an iron. So those are the pros and cons of each paint that I've tried. For the paint, there are a number of techniques that you can use. The first that I tried was with a paintbrush. The paintbrush is great because you can create a variety of lines and styles, both with the thick side of the paintbrush as well as the thin side. And then I've also created little X's for different stripes that move into a taper point for the Cheshire Cat and different designs like that. The second would be sponging, so you can use sponges to create great base layers. For different designs, you can cut shapes out of your sponges and create kind of unique shapes there. So sponges can be a great way to easily get all over color that isn't completely opaque. The third type that I used would be the squeeze bottles. Now the squeeze bottles are also great for stripes. If you want to do a zigzag motion in a stripe, I did that with the Cheshire Cat, as well as the cross hatching I did with Mr. Mistoffelees. So with Misto, the cross hatching is done in one direction first, and then in the second direction, just over top after that first layer dries. I then went back over in the opposite direction in an X shape. You can also, if you get kind of bubbles of paint with the cross-hatching in the squeeze bottles, you can also not squeeze the squeeze bottle and just drag that paint in the direction that you're going, and that can help it to dry faster because you won't have these bubbles of paint to worry about drying. The last technique that I've seen I had some trouble getting correct would be squeeze bottles. I had to water the paint down quite a bit to be able to get it to squeeze out of the squeeze bottle, and then just be careful of any overspray. You'll get some overspray that you may not intend, so you just have to be very careful of where that goes, either on your unitard or on your furniture or walls. So just be careful if you end up going with a squeeze bottle, and maybe do it in a backyard. To start painting, you can either set the unitard down on a surface to paint flat If you do, I recommend using cardboard in between the layers so that the paint doesn't bleed through, or you can use a dress form. I would wrap the dress form in a product like saran wrap or cling wrap to protect it first, and then you can place the unitard, or wrangle it, more likely, wrangle that unitard onto the dress form. I personally like this method to see where the stripes will hit the natural curves of the body. Before starting, you can also do small paint tests on locations where it won't be seen in the final product, such as underneath the warmers. You can then start to block out any important features of the cat, such as stripes for the Cheshire Cat or Mr. Mistoffelees' bib. Remember too that stripes don't cut straight across the body. You can angle them to make them look more realistic both for a cat and on the human body. Measuring from the side seams will help make sure that everything is centered. For Mr. Mistoffelees, I measured both the bib and the bow tie. I wanted to add more dimension to his base, so I sponged on a light gray with purple and red glitter. And remember, let each layer dry before doing the next. Now, remember that cross-hatching I showed you earlier? This is where you're going to start to use it. For the second layer, you're going to do the first side of the X. So we're just going to go in and add a slight angle. We're going to start to zigzag our way across the unitard. The third layer is going to be the second part of the X shape. So just follow along to the first set of lines you did and do your best to continue on that X shape all the way across the unitard. And then you'll finish by adding on the bow tie. And then as needed, you can heat set with an iron based off of the recommended settings for both the fabric paint manufacturer instructions and the fabric care instructions. Next, we'll discuss the organza. You can cut the organza into strips and fray it using a hairbrush or a pet brush. Then I recommend using a zigzag or a hand stitch to attach. I don't recommend using glue. It can cause a lot of problems or melt the fabric. For the shoulders, the Cheshire Cat organza was placed on the stripes, coordinating colors, so purple was with purple, pink was with pink, etc. For Mistoffelees' shoulders, they're entirely black, so they can be placed anywhere. For Mr. Mistoffelees' bib, I cut the white organza into strips, frayed it, and then placed it in a zigzag pattern all the way down the bib. You can also use paint to add some dimension if you'd like. I used gold, black, and white paint. To paint the shoes, I recommend using the Tulip brand paint or a paint that doesn't require heat setting. And for the Cheshire Cat, I just created different shapes on his shoes, and I decided not to paint Mr. Mistoffelees' shoes. I feel like the video really doesn't do it justice because oh boy, does he sparkle. If you like this tutorial, I have upcoming cats videos on wigs, warmers, tails, and more makeup. Feel free to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you'll be informed as soon as those videos come out. And if you're another cosplayer, feel free to share your cosplay with me at Tilli Cosplay. I'd love to see your work. For now, we'll see you in the next video. Bye!